What's up, 412? My name's Brittany Reed. I'm one of the 412 leaders at the Greater Little Rock campus, the greatest campus. Just to give you a fun fact about myself, my first pet was a catfish with one eye. His name was Bandit. He lived for like 10 years. I've never seen anything like it. He was amazing. Best pet ever outside of my dog, whose name was Nugget. It's weird. I give my pets strange names. Today, we're just going to be talking about who is God? What does that mean when you hear that? Who is God to you? For me, that just means someone who is loving and patient and kind and who's always there for me, right? But more importantly, he's a father who loves us completely unconditionally. And that's super important too, because it's just nice to know that you have someone who's always gonna have your back. And for me, God gave me a great dad. I know some of you guys, like, you weren't blessed with a great dad. Like, either he's not around or he is around and you kind of wish he wasn't because he's not very nice. But for me, that's not a part of my story. My dad's amazing, and he's a military dad, so I was raised a military brat, and that gave me a unique experience that I feel like God gave me so that I could, start my faith walk and it would make sense, because faith is just believing things that you don't see, right? And so for me, with my dad being in the military, a lot of times he was away, but I never doubted that he loved me and that he was proud of me. And that's exactly who God is for me. Like, I can't always feel him or see him or touch him or hear from him, but I still know in my heart that he loves me and he's proud of me. And we get to see an illustration of God being proud and loving his children in Matthew 3:13, when we see the baptism of Jesus. So Jesus is baptized by John, and when he comes up, something really cool happens. It says, at that moment, heaven was opened, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. And a voice from heaven said, so this is God speaking, "This is my Son, whom I love and with whom I am well pleased." That's just a fancy way of saying, like, I'm proud of him. That's my kid. And that's how my dad talks to me. He calls me my kid. He says, "You're my kid," all the time, with 2 Ds. That's important. But I asked my dad just for a time that he felt proud of me. And I assumed that he would say, oh, when you graduated from high school or college, or when you got your master's degree, because in my house, school and education, all those sorts of things are really important. But that wasn't what he said. He brought up a time when the craziest thing happened at our house. My mom and my dad were out of town in Vegas. They went to a DJ conference because my dad's a DJ. What? Right? And so they're at this conference in Vegas, which is half a country away. And I walk into the house from school and our house is flooded, which you might think, well, yeah, that's not a big deal. Houses flood all the time. However, this was special water because it was poo water, okay? So apparently in Jacksonville, the pipes had froze or something crazy, and all of the water from people's poo had backed up into our house. So it was full, in our bathtub, it was full of poo water. Our sink's full of poo water. My parents' shower, poo water. The hallway, the carpet, everything smelled awful. Things were squishy that shouldn't have been squishy. It was horrible. So I call my dad, I'm like, hey, the house is flooded with water that has stuff floating in it and it smells real gross, so I think it's probably poop. And he's like, okay. But he's in Vegas, there's nothing that he can do about it. And so I'm like, it'll be fine, I'll go over to the neighbor's house. My neighbor's name is Mr. Roger. How blessed am I to have Mr. Roger as my neighbor? And so I go over, I'm like, Mr. Roger, my house is flooded with what I believe is poop water. And he says, my house is too. And so it's like, oh my gosh, what? So I'm freaking out, but I have some comfort that Mr. Rogers' house is also flooded because misery loves company, right? And so I'm talking to my dad and he's like, well, you gotta call the water company. And I call them and I'm calm and they come out and it's basically vacuum all the poo water out of the house. And it was a crazy couple days, but my dad said the reason that's one of his proudest moments for me is because he had faith that I could handle it, because he knew that he had already prepared me for difficult situations. And that's one of the things that I've learned about God is he prepares us for difficult situations, and when we go through them and we turn back to him, like, that gives him joy. Like, my child knows that they can depend on me to deal with things that are tough, and sometimes life just sucks. But knowing that you have a father who who is there for you is what God loves most. Like, they turn to me like, my God, my child, I love you. This is what I've been waiting for, is you to turn back and depend on me. And it's like, that's awesome, but how do I become a child of God? What does that mean? If we look at John 1, verse 12, we get to see exactly what that looks like. It says, "Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God." And I don't know about you, but that touches my heart to know that I can be adopted into a family that all I have to do is believe that they love me and believe in what they've done for me and what they're gonna do for me in the future. And I get to inherit all of the good things that come along with being in that family. I get to have a loving father if I've never had one. I get to have a best friend if I'm struggling with having a friend who's always there for me. That's what God does for us. And I want you to make that decision at some point in your life to say to yourself, like, that's a relationship that I want. That's something that I need in my life. I need Jesus. And I hope that one day you come to that realization and that you make this decision to become adopted as a child of God, so that when he looks at you, when you make mistakes, you don't have to worry about letting him down, because when he looks at you, he sees Jesus, and Jesus is his son, and you're gonna be his son or his daughter. So when he looks at you, he's still gonna say, I love you, and no matter what, it's with you that I am well pleased, that I am proud of. All right, so if you want to dig a little bit deeper into this and just hear some stories of students who are your age going through some of the same things that you're dealing with, click the link below to hear a testimony of another 412 student, and maybe that'll help you with making this decision to become a part of God's family. And if you want to learn more and just dig deeper into his word because you're just craving more knowledge and wisdom, there's also a Bible study that you can check out in the link below, so check that out.